Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Carrie Oderman with UATV. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has set a task for the government to finalize the reorganization plan of Ukrainian Railway by the year's end. The document will provide for the liberalization of railway services on the country's rail network. So, are they ready for liberalization? To discuss this, we're joined in the studio today by Oleksandra Klitina, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This sounds like a big job President Zelensky has given you. How will the job start, or is it well underway?
Yeah, definitely it's a big job. However, the first step is approval of the reform in the parliament. So the ministry worked very closely with Transport Committee of the Parliament. We developed a draft law that already registered in the Parliament. And we expect that till the end of the year, the Parliament will approve the reform and we will start to implement the reform. The reform is quite difficult, actually, in the implementation, but I'm expecting you that this will be your next question then.
Exactly. How will you implement the reforms?
The first step, as you said, it will be a reorganization of our state railway company, Ukrzaliznytsia. As far as its state monopoly, it will be divided on 3 state-owned operators. The reform will follow EU recommendations and EU directives. So the reorganization of railway sector is a part of association agreement with the European Union. So the railway company will be divided on 3 operators. It's operator for infrastructure. This operator will provide access to all railway operators, state-owned and private. Also, it will be cargo railway company and passenger railway company owned by state. So the idea of the reform to change the structure of the market from the state monopoly to competitive open market for private parties.
But the private companies will be owned by the state. This sounds a lot like what they did in the UK and in Germany. Did you base your model of privatization on other EU countries?
Yes, we based our reform on EU countries' experience. However, the state companies probably will have private placement, but they are not will be privatized. So it will be state-owned companies that compete on open market. The idea to provide fair competition and to require state companies to be the same efficient as a private company to be successful in this competition.
How is this going to affect rail travel for customers? A majority of Ukrainians still take the train and enjoy taking the train. Is that going to change? Is it going to improve the service?
Yes. Actually, the railway passenger transportation is, I think, the most difficult part of the reform, because in Ukraine it causes losses, and at the moment, railway company cross-subsidize railway passenger transportation by cargo transportation revenues, and this is a huge problem because it causes inefficiency in the level of the state monopoly. So we have to totally change our passenger railway system, and first step it will be change of financial system. The regional administrations will be the owner and customers for the railway services. They will order important passenger railway transportations from the budget, and it will be partly subsidized by budget. So the idea to build efficient financial system that will provide profitability for state-owned operator and for private operators as well in this segment of market. And with this competition, the passenger will get better services as well. So it's very complex and different reform, and actually for the government to subsidize all this, we should actually reorganize a lot of things and to find funds in the budget. So it's touching a lot of questions of profitability of cargo operators and also profitability of railway stations that probably we should concess for private parties and get some more revenue to budget to fund the passenger operations. I'm sorry, it's quite difficult reform. However, it's really a piece of work to do.
Having a well-functioning railway system is in part important for a country for ecological reasons also. Have any of the ecological advantages of a good rail network been thought about in your planning for the reform?
I would say we have some ecological organizations that are participating in our working group for the reform. However, I must say the drivers of this reform, exactly the owners of the cargo, because due to inefficient services of state monopoly in this sector, they are not provided with good services. And actually, they're drivers of the reform because they want to buy their own locomotives, and they want to actually transport cargo themselves. And because the state railway services are not reliable at the moment, so the railway company has lack of the locomotives, and they couldn't provide the right services. They cannot actually satisfy the demand from cargo owners, and I think it's really limiting our economy as a whole, and that's why railway reform is very important, and in both segments, in passenger, cargo, and also environment as well.
How much cargo goes from Ukraine outside to the EU via rails? Is it a large amount, or is it still on lorries, trucks most of the time?
I think most of the cargo goes by trucks. However, some of the cargo goes through railways as well. However, we have different size of the railway network within EU countries. So it should be we have special unloading on the border to get through. So now we're working with EU to provide a special EU connectivity, EU-Ukraine connectivity program to fund infrastructural project in railway network, actually to build some more connectivity with railway network of Ukraine and EU.
That looks like there's a lot to do.
A lot.
When will the customers that take the train first notice these changes?
I think very soon, because we're already working on 2 pilot projects in the Dnipro region and Zaporizhia regions. European Union supporting this pilot project with funding. So the new trains going to be bought, I think, within 2 years. And of course, customers directly will see the change physically, because the trains will be new. Also, we're going to introduce the electronic ticket services, and also it will be optimizations of the routes, because sometimes it should be optimized, because the railway company should be profitable, and at least not cause the losses to the state. So sometimes it makes sense to use buses if the route is not profitable to use locomotive. So it's huge work, not only for our ministry, but also for regional administrations, that they have actually to reorganize the routes, and they should discover for themselves which routes are more profitable, which routes are more which routes are important for the people that living in this region. And actually now we're working with 2 regional administrations, and I think it's Lviv regional administration also interested to join. And I know that Minister is planning to inform all regional authorities regarding this reform implementation, and involve all regions of Ukraine to reform railway network.
That means in about 2 years we might all be sitting in new trains. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
That was Oleksandra Klitina, Deputy Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more with UATV.